In the extreme south of the Kenai Peninsula, where the mountains drop straight into the cold Pacific, there once stood a busy cannery town called Portlock. Founded in 1787 by Russian pro-Mishleniki and later renamed for a British naval captain who charted the coast in 1786, the settlement reached its peak between 1920 and 1940. At the height of the salmon season, as many as 2,000 workers, white, native, Filipino, and Chinese, crowded its boardwalks, bunkhouses, and saloons. By 1950, the place was empty. Not burned down, not washed away by a tsunami, not closed by corporate decision alone. Portlock was abandoned because something in the woods was killing people, and no one could stop it. The local Sugpiaq and Dena'ina people had always called the country around Port Chatham dangerous. They spoke of a creature they named Nantinoch, the one who looks at you from the forest. Elders said it was half man, half beast, taller than any human, covered in long black or reddish hair, and murderously territorial. Children were warned never to whistle near the tree line, never to follow strange voices calling from the alders. For generations, the natives simply avoided the upper lagoons and the steep valleys behind the cannery. When white men arrived with steam donkeys, power saws, and a hunger for every last spruce and salmon, the old rules were forgotten. The trouble began slowly in the late 1920s. Gold prospectors, working the headwaters of the Chrome River, started turning up missing. One man, Tom Larson, was found in 1929, frozen into the river ice with his head crushed and his pickaxe driven clean through his chest. Bears were common, but bears don't pin a man to the ground and hammer a tool through his sternum. The coroner in Seward wrote, "Accident," and closed the file. Locals knew better. By 1931, the disappearances had become a pattern. Loggers, cutting timber on the slopes above the cannery, reported seeing huge, human-like figures watching them from ridgelines. At night, heavy footsteps circled the bunkhouses. Doors rattled, though no wind blew. One crew quit after finding their high lead blocks, steel cables thick as a man's wrist, torn loose and flung 100 yards down the mountain. The final straw that summer was the death of Andrew Kamluck, a cannery foreman. His body was discovered by a search party 2 miles up the Chrome River Trail. He had been beaten so severely that his skull was flattened. His rifle lay beside him, fully loaded, never fired. Deep, bare footprints, 18 inches long, led from the body straight into dense Devil's Club and vanished. Word spread fast. Men refused to work alone. The cannery superintendent hired armed guards to escort workers to and from the timber camps. It didn't help. Between 1931 and 1938, at least 40 people vanished or died violently in the Portlock district. Some bodies were never found. Others were discovered in states that made even seasoned trappers turn away. One logger was found hanging upside down from a spruce, gutted like a deer. Another was folded in half, literally bent backward until his spine snapped and wedged between 2 boulders too heavy for 3 men to move. The most documented case happened in September 1931. A party of 9 experienced hunters and trappers, led by a man named Melania Z, set out to kill whatever was responsible. They carried high-powered rifles, shotguns, even a Thompson submachine gun borrowed from the territorial police. They followed tracks up a side canyon toward what is still called Dead Man's Ridge. 5 days later, only 2 came back. Melania and a Filipino trapper named Albert Petka staggered into Portlock barefoot and half-mad. They claimed the creature attacked at dusk. It moved faster than anything that size had a right to, screaming in a voice that sounded almost human. Bullets seemed to have little effect. 3 men were crushed outright. 2 more were carried off alive, their screams echoing long after darkness fell. The survivors fled downhill without their weapons. After that, attendance at the cannery plummeted. The owners tried everything: higher wages, armed patrols, floodlights powered by diesel generators, but workers still left on every available boat. Native families packed up first. They had never truly trusted the place. By 1942, the war effort pulled the last stubborn holdouts away. When the final supply ship departed in 1950, only a caretaker remained to watch the buildings rot. He lasted 6 months before radioing Seward that he was done listening to things walk on the roof at night. The U.S. Post Office officially discontinued the Portlock cancellation stamp in 1951. The town was gone. What really happened? 5 main theories have circulated for 75 years. A rogue grizzly or pack of wolves was blamed early on, but the evidence never supported that theory. Grizzlies don't decapitate victims with a single blow, nor do they stack bodies or hurl 1,000-pound logs downhill. No bear tracks were ever found near the human footprints left at the scenes, and despite numerous hunts, no bear was ever killed that could be connected to the attacks. Another suggestion was a deranged hermit or escaped murderer living somewhere in the hills. Some believed a crazed prospector preyed on anyone who wandered into his territory. But no human, no matter how strong, could inflict the kind of destruction described. Skulls were flattened, rib cages were crushed until bones pierced lungs, and bodies were thrown 30 feet into the trees. And if it was a man, or even a group, how did they evade every armed posse for 2 full decades? Others dismissed the stories as mass hysteria and exaggeration. They argued that many supposed deaths were never officially recorded, and tales simply grew each time they were retold. Yet, too many independent witnesses, loggers, school teachers, a U.S. Marshal, even a Catholic priest, gave matching descriptions. The plaster footprint casts taken in 1931 and 1933 still exist in private hands today. They show dermal ridges and mid-tarsal flexibility that no human foot possesses. The explanation most locals accepted was an unknown primate, Sasquatch, or Bigfoot. The Sugpiaq and Dena'ina peoples had names for such a creature long before outsiders arrived. The immense size, incredible strength, distinct footprints, and nocturnal raids all match thousands of later Bigfoot reports from the Pacific Northwest. Portlock may have simply been one of the rare places where a reclusive creature was cornered and fought back. Today, Portlock, now usually called Port Chatham to avoid confusion with another Alaskan ghost town, is reachable only by boat or float plane. The cannery foundations are still there, choked with alder and devil's club. Moose and bears wander the old streets. Hikers occasionally find rusted cleavers, broken bottles, and the occasional human bone washed out by spring floods. In 1973, a National Geographic photographer reported hearing wood knocks and a long, rising howl that made his native guide refuse to camp overnight. In 2009, a hunting party found a set of fresh 19-inch tracks crossing a mudflat at low tide. The stride length measured nearly 8 feet. They left the same day. The state of Alaska has no plans to reopen the area. Too remote, too expensive, and, though never admitted officially, too many rangers quietly refuse assignment there. Fishermen who anchor in the bay still set extra watches at night. Some swear they've seen red eyes reflecting their running lights from the tree line, high above the high tide mark where no bear would